Well, this continues my attempt to say some things about Atlas Shrugged, which I took to be my mission. And on page 380 of the book in front of you, you will find a speech by Francisco de Ocaña, one of the characters in the book, about money. And this particular speech, it's only, I don't know, 4 or 5 pages long, was a fairly controversial talk at the time that the book came out. Maybe it won't seem so today, I don't know. But certainly it's considered one of the sort of central speeches in the book, this defense of money. So it seemed to me to be another good way to try to explain some of her philosophy. Again, the topic looks economic, but it isn't. In some ways, it's back to the same point I made this morning, that what we're talking about is really ethics in a way, and less so economics, even though money is the supposed topic of the discussion. So let's go through this and talk about it and see what you think. This is, I'm taking various passages, lines out of the speech that Francisco gives, but as you can see here, to trade by means of money is the code of the men of goodwill. You get a sense almost immediately that this is going to be a kind of defense of money, which in fact the speech is. And but my point is that money isn't about money, and I'll try to make that point as we go on. Okay? It sounds paradoxical, but anyway. Here's the question. Is money the root of all evil or the root of all good? And the common view, the one I heard growing up, was that money was the root of all evil. Part of what Rand is trying to do in the book is do exactly the opposite. But I thought I would start with the more common view, at least it's, I don't know if people completely believe it, but it's certainly said often enough and is a part of the Christian, Judeo-Christian biblical heritage. So I would say some things. Mainly, try to identify, start with a few things that people say or give reasons as to why they think money is the root of all evil. Of course, one of them is that people simply do bad things to each other for the sake of money. They steal, they rob, they step on somebody's career to advance their own. There are lots of ways in which people are said to do bad things to each other in the pursuit of money, and that supports this common notion that it's the root of all evil. People distort priorities in their own life, it's said, for the sake of money. They don't spend enough time with their children or their spouse or other family members in pursuit of their career or money or whatever. So this is often brought forward as a further indication that, you know, there's something about money that is corrupting. Ways of relating to other people are sometimes distorted through money. I might treat you differently than I would otherwise simply because I know you have money or I know you don't have money. So this again would be a kind of corruption, a perversion of morality that people say is connected to money being the root of all evil. Money sometimes masks the true value of something. Maybe something costs more in terms of money than it should, or costs less. People should value it more. This is, again, a kind of ethical argument against money, so you'll hear this said sometimes as well. Money lowers the value of things sometimes. If you do something nice for me and I discover that, in fact, you only did it because you would increase your monetary income in some way, the value of what you did for me is somehow diminished. I feel it's, you know, less ethical than it was if you did it simply out of kindness or some other motive. Now, I'm not going to say necessarily that all of these things are incorrect exactly. What I'm going to try to do is is talk about some assumptions that are made and perhaps some counter-arguments to at least some aspects of this. One assumption seems to be that money has value in itself, and we'll talk about this in a moment, but this might be a very questionable assumption that money does have value in itself. Another sort of background assumption that people sometimes have is that money is gained at somebody else's expense. If I get more, somebody else is getting less. That might also be a questionable assumption. It might not be true. The view that money can trump any other value is sometimes assumed here, but maybe not. Maybe there are some values that really can't be overcome by money. I don't know. We can talk about that as well. Things that are ends in themselves become means in the presence of money. Is this true? I don't know, but it certainly seems to be an assumption that some people will trade any value for the sake of money. Maybe that's true, maybe it isn't. Finally, money is sometimes thought of as a kind of self-centered pursuit. I think these assumptions are either false in themselves or questionable, and that might change how we look at money. And in the speech in the book, I think what she's trying to do is to get you to look at money in from another perspective than people have traditionally looked at it, and that's sort of what I'm trying to do as well. People sometimes act like money has value in itself, but really, where does its value come from? If I pull a piece of paper out of my wallet that's called money and hold it up, does it really have value in itself? When you think about it, not really very likely. Its value comes because all of you think it has value, for example, or other people give it some sort of value. It doesn't really isn't worth much in its own right. And that fact alone, that other people are sort of interested in this object and attach value to it, sort of makes us ask ourselves, well, where does this sort of value come from? Why does it arise? Maybe we actually don't get money at somebody else's expense, but we get money at somebody else's benefit. That's a possibility, isn't it? That in fact, when you give me money or I give you money for some object, maybe it's the case that we're both benefiting as opposed to somebody's gaining at somebody else's expense. I mean, maybe money is a tool by which people benefit each other rather than exploit from each other. That possibility has to be open, I think. Money may actually reveal rather than overcome values. Maybe the problem isn't with money, but the holder of money. Maybe money